Eric when I do the podcast, right? He does all the technical stuff, and I just say whatever comes to my brain.
See, I need a technical guy. I really do, because I've tried, I do all this myself and I've had to
Wow.
learn it. But we are live though.
Cool.
So, hey, Julie Rowe.
Hi, Jay.
Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here. I'm excited about this one.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on, and it's very, very nice to meet you. I want to let a few more people join the chat before we get started.
Okay.
So they don't miss anything. Because I want to start out, I want you to tell everybody just a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you've done. And then we will get into how you met Chad Daybell.
Chad Daybell.
I can't wait to hear this story. I've been waiting since we talked. I'm like, I need to know. Everybody wants to know about Chad.
Yes. Well, Chad. Yeah. We'll get to that. My name is Julie Rowe, R-O-W-E. I am married to Jeffrey Rowe, and I have 3 kids. I will be married to my husband 24 years on April 24th of this year. So coming up pretty soon. Happily married. And let's see, I have my oldest son, Ethan. He's 21. I have a son that's 19, Spencer, and a daughter who's 16, Aubriana. And let's see, I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. When I was 2.5, my dad joined the military. He was a LDS chaplain, so a Mormon chaplain in the military when I was growing up. And I am the second oldest of 10 kids. Traveled, I mean, you could read my biography. We talk about, and also my book, New Revolution, about my first near-death experience in 2004. I've got several books out, so I'm an author. I've got a teaching degree license. I've got a psychology undergrad license from Brigham Young University. Met my husband at BYU. He is from the Kansas City area, and we have been in Kansas 18 of 24 years of marriage, also living in Utah for a couple semesters to finish college. We lived in Texas for 4 months, and then Arizona for a year and a half, and Iowa for 2. But growing up, I moved like 18 times. So you name the state, I've been there except for 7 of them. So I'm well-traveled and well-versed in history and geography from a personal interest as well as just life experience. Lived in Heidelberg, Germany in high school, and Hawaii in elementary school, 4th through 6th grade. Those were some unique experiences that I...
Very cool. Yeah.
And so I'm in Kansas because I fell in love with my husband, and he's amazing. So I'd like to put let's see, what should we say? An end to those rumors that I'm in love with Chad Daybell. Not at all.
Yes, that was going to be my first. That was going to be my first question.
Sorry.
Heard a lot of. No, it's fine. I want you to get all this out there. So that was going to be my first question. Was a lot of the rumors that have been flying around about you since you've come out of the woodwork.
Right.
And one has been that you were in love with Chad Daybell, and he kind of gave you the boot when he met Lori, and you were upset about that. So
I'd really love to know where that rumor started. First of all, I live in Kansas and he lives in Idaho. Of course, that didn't stop him from going to Arizona. But I go out to Idaho every couple of months for work. Sometimes it depends on what the work is. I run a nonprofit organization for emergency and disaster relief, as well as it kind of doubles over my safe houses for human trafficking. So that's totally separate from anything I ever do with Chad. I've done that since August of 15, and it's all on volunteer, so I don't make an income off that. I actually full-time, I teach classes about once a month throughout the country on energy. They're group energy sessions that I teach, or that I teach students how to do. And then I have regular clients that I work with to help them through addiction, trauma, abuse, and things like that, to release negative energies from their system. So that's how I make my money. Awesome. And then I use that money to fund my trips when I take the Greater Tomorrow Relief Organization's name of my nonprofit. And that's how I fund my stuff. I do get some donations, but most of it is self-funded. So And my husband is an
Very
attorney.
interesting.
My husband's an attorney. He's really smart and he makes good income. So there's also rumors out there that I have a bunch of land in Idaho and Utah. I don't. I have a 20-acre property an hour south of Kansas City that I bought with my husband, and I don't own
Hmm.
any other property right now. So, and
Oh, that was something that was going on, that you owned a bunch of properties, or
yeah, that's been going around for like 5, 6 years. Yeah.
why does that
So I
matter
don't.
though?
Yeah, well, because there's people that think I'm in it for the money, that have written my books or told these stories for the money. I'm
Oh,
not in
okay.
it at all. I actually donate most of my income last year. I donated to my relief organization, and then we lived off my husband's income, with the exception of a couple $1,000s a month. And so,
Mm.
um, just let's see what else. There's all kinds of rumors. I don't want to spend the whole time on that, but so I don't care about the money one bit. Um, you have to have money to live, but I've got plenty of it because I married a man with a good income and we've saved. So, but we've had lots of times where we have been really tight on money, especially he lost his job in 2004. And that's when I had my health issues, and I was in the hospital for 5 days when I had my first near-death experience in September of 2004. So I'm coming up on 16 years this September. And at the time I had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 8.5-month-old. And so
Wow.
severe health issues. Epstein-Barr virus and Lyme disease is what put me into the hospital, but I didn't know that from doctors. I didn't have a diagnosis for about 8 years and was very, very sick for a very long time. So
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you're okay.
I feel
Um,
great.
I'm, I'm,
Yeah.
and I'm really interested to get into that part of your life as well, and because it
Yeah,
has a lot to do with, why you are where you are right now.
it does.
And
In fact, the whole story of I could talk for hours just about energy work and how I got into it, because I learned about energy work when I had my near death experience, but I came back and didn't know what it was or how to find it. I just remembered it. And it wasn't
Mhm.
until 2012 that I saw it in night vision dream, and I had a recurring dream, and I was told how to go about finding a doctor who could help me out. And so that's how I got involved in it. Was for my own health issues, and I
And
am
that was in
healthy.
what year, Julie?
2012.
2012. Okay.
Yes, and I
So
just walked
what
5 miles
year
this
did you
morning,
meet? Oh, well, good for
and I
you.
used
Come
to be
on, come on,
bedridden.
don't
So
rub it in.
I'm trying to
Don't
lose
rub it in.
weight.
But I'm so happy.
I put on 60 pounds in 6 years going public with my story, and it's time to get the weight off. So yeah, I'm
Aw.
exercising.
Well, I
Yeah,
think you look great, and
thank you,
I think that's awesome. I mean, it
thank
makes
you.
me feel needy, but
Yeah.
it's great. But when did you meet Chad Daybell?
I met Chad officially in person in July of 2014, but over the internet on the Vallow website, which some people have heard of from the news, I was on there for I don't even know how long. A friend of mine told me about it because there's a dreams and visions section on there, and she was one of the few friends that knew I'd had a near-death experience and that I had had dreams and visions about, um, like last day stuff. And so she said, "Hey, there's this prepper site, and there's a section on there where you can go on the forum and talk about your dreams and visions, and you might find some people that are also having some of these experiences, so you're not alone." And I didn't learn about that. I don't even remember what year it was. I'd get on periodically. I never got on any of their forums except for that part, and I would just post mine, and I'd read a few here and there. And I never read what Chad wrote. I didn't know his name, didn't know anything about him, but he contacted me in February of 2014 on a private message on that site because he was reading my stuff. I don't even know for how long. I don't know if it was a couple years or something or several months. And
Oh,
I
wow.
um, I was prompted by the Holy Spirit to, or what you could call angels or Holy Ghost. People have there's different communication there. Um, from the light side, I'll just say from the light side, on the other side of in spirit realm, to post some of my story about dreams and visions and my near-death experience, and then to let them know that I knew I was supposed to go public with my story, and that I was told during my near-death experience that I would go public with my story approximately 9 Earth years, and they said Earth because there's lots of planets. 9 Earth years after I woke up, and that's exactly what happened. In 2012, no, 2013, October 2013 is when I was prompted to post this stuff and basically say on the Daybell website, I'm supposed to share my story. If there's anyone out there that knows how I can get this message out, please let me know. And then Chad followed up, between October and February or something like that. I don't remember the time frame. So that's
he reached out.
Yeah, and he asked me. He said he was an author and publisher, and he asked me if I'd want to publish a book. And I already had seen Envision, and in my near-death experience, it was part of my plan. I actually saw Chad in Vision for a long time. I didn't know his name. They didn't tell me his name. And when I saw it in Vision again on October 15th, I was told, don't worry about it. Just type this, which is what I just told you, and then wait. And it'll happen sometime after the first of the year. And so that's what I did. I just waited. And so when he contacted me, I got this good feeling, and I knew I was supposed to work with him because it was all part of my plan, part of God's plan for me. So.
Okay, so when you first met Chad in person, what was your first impression of him?
Okay, I'll be totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was a nice guy. He had a very kind of almost timid personality, shy, quiet, introverted. Kind of.
Were you surprised?
Kind of geeky, nerdy.
Were you kind of surprised? Did you expect something else, or?
No, I had seen him in Vision, so I kind of knew what to expect. He looked very familiar to me. I didn't know his personality, but his face was familiar to me. I knew that I had known him in pre-Earth life because we have our spirits before we can get a body. And they made that clear to me. I was like, I knew this, and I knew that I had agreed to do these books. And so that part was easy for me. But I didn't know him like on Earth as a person until we started work together. But you have your first impressions, and he was socially awkward. But intelligent.
So he was easy to work with?
Calm. Oh, yeah.
Easy to work with?
Yeah, very easy to work with. In fact, I wrote my first draft of my first manuscript in 3 weeks and sent it over to him, and he did the first edits and sent me more questions of things he wanted me to add to the book. And he went through that the first during spring break in, I guess it was March of 2014. So I sent him the first draft in 3 weeks, then he edited for a week, and my husband and my kids and I, we went to Grand Canyon and camped, during spring break, and then I came back and after spring break wrote for 3 more weeks. So I wrote that book in 6 weeks, and then it was published. It went to the press in April, and it was published May 14th. But I got my first copy May 6th because I got an author's copy early.
That's really fast.
Very fast. In fact, there are people on the internet that have accused me of being so fast that they think I've copied and pasted everybody else's dreams together and their experiences. And that's a lie too. Because I can tell details nobody else on this planet can tell. If you actually read all my books, listen to all my podcasts, and go to my blog, you'll see things like the Wasatch Wake Up that was given to me from the other side. That's a coined phrase. That's now a popular phrase on that website and other forums. And lots of details about that earthquake and other things that are coming to the United States that no one else has been shown. And I know that because I know specifically what my mission is, and I've been told that specifically. Different people will get different parts, and I know that's a bold statement, but I am the only one that has more of that complete picture, and that's the plan. I'm to serve as a witness to the world of a lot of things regarding, the world we live in. So.
Very interesting.
Chad has his gifts, and he had seen some of it, but not as extensively.
What I'm curious about, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, but where does Chad get the knowledge and the expertise to be a publisher? I read that he was a grave digger the majority of his life.
Yeah, so, in fact, when I wrote my first 2 books, he was working at Springville Cemetery as a cemetery sexton, and I would get visuals of him digging a grave, and I would be prompted to call him, like to work on something on the book, and he'd be breathing hard because he was in the middle of digging a grave, and he'd kind of be awkward at first. The first couple times it happened, he'd try to hide it from me because I didn't know he worked as a cemetery sexton. He was trying to hide it from me, like, all he did was his publishing company. And then I called him out because he didn't know my gifts. I called him out. I'm like, so what's your job? And then he started telling me a little bit more. I knew he worked at a cemetery, but I didn't know how much, and I didn't know that he actually dug the graves. But there would be times when I'd call him and he's like, hold on just a second. I'm finishing something.
You can't make that up. I have to say, I've never met a gravedigger in my life. So
yeah. So,
yeah,
but
that's kind
he
of
worked in Ogden.
How did he get in this?
He worked in Ogden at the newspaper there as an editor, and his first books before he did his own publishing company were at Cedar Fort. Cedar Fort in Utah published several of his books before he published his own. He was one of their editors for a while, and they had a falling out, and then Chad started his own publishing company. And he actually hadn't been a publisher very long before I had mine. It was like less than 3 years, from the time he started his company until he
was fairly new to it.
Yeah.
How many books did he publish for you?
I'd have to add them up. Well, I have
was that many?
A Greater Tomorrow, The Time Is Now, From Tragedy to Destiny, and then I started doing podcasts on the Julie Rowe Show on YouTube in I think it was like 2015 or 16, I can't remember. And he published the first podcast book for me. So 4 books. Oh no, and also he published my biography, which he titled Rising Above the Flames. I've taken his energy out. From Tragedy to Destiny is an overview, kind of compilation of my first 2 books to a general audience instead of like an LDS audience, written for like general population, and it was called From Tragedy to Destiny. And I have just now re-released that under the new title of New Revolution. And we've changed the cover, and I added about 30 pages of some original documents that I wanted in the first book, but was told it wasn't time and to wait until after I had stopped working with Chad. And so New Revolution's out. And then my biography, he titled Rising Above the Flames. I wrote that with Eric Smith. He's the one that I do the podcast on the Eyes Open with, as well as Julie Rowe Show. And Eric wrote my biography.
I listened a little bit.
That's good. Yeah, Eric's great. I met Eric. It's a long story how I met Eric, but he emailed me. He had read my books and he emailed me. And Eric's a mapper, a geoscientist, and asked if he could help with any mapping because of my safe houses. I kind of put some of that out there. And I actually asked him if he could be a recorder for me. So that's how I met Eric originally. Was he started recording a lot of my dreams and visions and just business stuff that I needed. And now he's a recorder, a mapper, a podcaster, a co-author.
He's evolved.
And he's now my publisher. He is now my publisher. Yeah, we self-publish now. And I have several other books that we've done since. So.
Okay. So
that's a lot right there. You're a good listener.
That is a lot. So, okay. So you meet Chad, he starts publishing your books. You do this biography. And when do you meet his wife, Tammy?
So I met Tammy the same day I met Chad in person.
Oh,
and so the first book came out.
Tell us about that. I didn't
even meet. Okay. So I didn't even meet Chad and Tammy until after my first book came out, and I had already committed and signed committed to a second book. And the day that I met them, I signed the contract for the second book. It was in July, the 3rd week of July in 2014. We met at the Bean Museum at BYU so that our kids could watch the like little animal show that they have there with reptiles, so that I could talk to he and Tammy off to the side. I brought my 3 kids with me to Utah. For 3 weeks. I came out, I had some family there. I came to visit and was doing some other work and some speaking engagements in different parts of Utah. And so I made a 3-week trip of it because you drive from Kansas to Utah. It's a 2-day drive, And so I met Chad and Tammy that day at the Bean Museum, and 4 of their 5 kids. One of their sons was on a mission, and I met him later. And they met my 3 kids.
What did their relationship seem like to you when you met?
It seemed happy and good. Yeah.
You were like, oh, this is just a nice couple. And
yeah, they were holding hands. He would touch her arm, put his arm around her. We were only together for maybe an hour and a half or something that day, 2 hours. I don't know.
Did she also help him with his stuff?
Yeah, she
did.
She ran the computer side of it, the back office part of it, most of it, and she designed all the covers on my books.
Oh, wow. So
He
she
would
was
see the
really
books, and
involved.
he and I would see the books in vision. So I would tell him some of what I see on the book, and he would look for pictures online that matched what I had in my head of what I saw. I came up with the titles. I came up with the titles with the first 3 books. And then obviously the Julie Rowe Show podcast book 1, is my title because I came up with the title of the Julie Rowe Show. So I titled all my books. I saw it in vision. He would go on and he would find the picture. He would send it to me and I would say, yeah, that's it. And every single time he found the right picture the first time and sent it over to me. And it was like, yep, that's the one I saw. It was amazing. So I had lots of confirmations along the way that, God was in it. And then
you guys were on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tammy and I were too, because she was working with him and I would talk to her some, she stayed more in the background. And I know she handled a lot of finances and stuff.
So he didn't seem overbearing on her or like controlling or anything like that. Like
I would see little things. No, there was some of that, but not huge, It wasn't until a little later that I started seeing more of that as I was in person with them. But even still, like my interactions with them together would be like me at their house talking. I'm sitting on one couch and they're sitting like on a couch across from me together. Or I would come over and Tammy would be just with the kids, or I'd be there and Chad would be the kids, or it would be their whole family. I was never alone with Chad, like at his house. It was always, and most of the time he was with Tammy, the kids were around. So I noticed things later on, but like with sometimes how he started treating me after a while, or how he, every once in a while with little side comments. He's real subtle about it, but no, I felt like he had a good heart.
Kind of like passive aggressive.
Yeah. There's some passive aggressive in the family line. Yeah. Communication. But I'm well versed in that. I grew up in a lot of that in my own household. And so I know I do energy work. So I have to clear some of that yucky communication stuff. So, but they were always very polite to me, very respectful, very kind. My husband didn't meet him until June, the end of June, 3rd week of June, 2016. My husband and I and our 3 kids took a family trip out to Utah. I had some work to do out there and we came all together to visit some family and friends. And we made a point to stop and met them in Provo, which is just a few minutes up the road, 10 or 15 minutes up the road from where they lived at the time, I guess it must have been 2015 because they still lived in Utah. They had moved to Idaho after that. So we met them. They lived in Springville, Utah. And the first time I met them in 14, I didn't go to their house, but a year later in 15, that's when we went to their house. And we hung out with them for several hours, our family and their family. We went out to dinner. I'm trying to think. I know at least one of the times or 2 of the times I went to dinner with them, we were at the Brick Oven. I think we went to the Brick Oven in Provo, Utah. And it was great. I mean, a little bit awkward because it's the first time my husband was meeting them, but.
Yeah, anytime, 2 couples and it's like small talk.
It wasn't just 2 couples. It's like a double date with the kids, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like.
Right. And the kids are awkward because they don't know each other.
Yeah. So, but it's like, but I knew Chad and Tammy, and my husband knew that I'd gotten close to them, and so.
So what your husband?
And I talk to Tammy on the phone sometimes or text her, but it's not as much as Chad, huh?
What did your husband think of them?
I would tell you this. He liked them, but he always said he didn't know, and he'd always say to me, I just don't know Chad. And I think he talked to Chad on the phone once, maybe, but my husband never had an interest in getting to know them. He had no interest in getting to know Chad. And I would say about 4 years ago, he started to say to me, are you sure you can trust Chad? And I'd say, yeah, I can trust Chad. And then I'd get this kind of little feeling inside. And then like a year after that, there was another time he said it again, are you sure you can trust Chad? And I'd kind of get this little bit of doubt inside. And then I started seeing some red flags a couple years ago and would talk to my husband about it. And he'd say, well, just, and over and over. But by then I wasn't doing any more books with him, and it was more of a friendship, and I would do energy work with him. And so I knew some of the more of the inner workings of his marriage and his family life. And I worked with his daughter, Emma. I taught her quite a bit of energy work, and then I gave them some materials that had been given to me as a gift to
How
thank
old
Tina's
is
family.
Emma?
She's in her 20s. She's married with a couple kids.
Oh, she's grown.
Yeah, but when I met her, she was, 20,
Teenager.
21.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Their youngest was
Well,
just barely
sounds like it was a
14
lot
when
of
I
family.
met them.
Sounds like it was a lot of family.
Yeah, they're very family oriented. Like I don't know if it was every Sunday, but most of the Sundays that I knew about, their kids would all come over and they'd have Sunday dinner. And Chad and Tammy both would kind of joke around about how their kids had left home, but they didn't really leave because they wanted to come home all the time. They were always hanging out. I mean, Emma lives a couple doors down from her dad. He's got a married son and daughter-in-law and a baby living in the house right now, and a single son in his late 20s living there, and his son that just came home from South Africa on a mission living there. So he's got, even right now, he's got all his adult children living in the house in Rexburg. So, and he's got another daughter and son-in-law.
Is that where he's living right now?
Live in Rexburg. Yes, that's what I understand. He's living there, and he's looking at trying to get a manufactured home. I know that from my contacts in Idaho and some of the people that I've been talking to, clients and stuff that are kind of my inside.
Any
ears.
idea what that would be? What would he want with a manufactured home? Is he?
Well, because his house is full, but he doesn't want to live there because that's where Tammy died. This is what I'm guessing, and he's been turned down by several people that I know that have let me know that he's tried to get them to live at their house, live in their basements, or put their houses up for bond to get Lori out of jail. So I would venture to say his friend list is getting shorter, and he's gone around. I was told this by God over a year ago, but I now have confirmation from several people that Chad Daybell spent the better part of last year going around bad talking me and saying I had turned dark. And that when I went public with my story saying that Chad and I had had a falling out, that he is telling people that the reason we had a falling out is because I'm controlling and I've gone dark. And
can you explain what he would mean by going dark? What that would mean to Chad Daybell?
Being possessed, or agreeing to work for the dark side. So I'd like people to get a close look at me.
That's a pretty heavy accusation.
Look in my eyes. You can tell light in somebody's eyes and face. It's a pretty good indication, if they have some energy they need to clear. And people just have to decide for themselves who I work for.
I feel like I see that when we see these these cases we cover, these murderers, their eyes actually look black.
Yes.
They really,
there's a dullness to it, and they will look darker, like black, and it is dark black energy.
Like shark eyes. That's kind of how I describe it when I see those mug shots and things like that. It's just they look like shark eyes. They're empty. Right. They're empty. Right. You don't look empty.
Well, I can say this. That first thank you. That first video I saw of Chad in Hawaii, where they caught he and Lori and searched the car and took the black SUV away. They took that video and they got that still shot. And I had to watch the video a few times because I absolutely didn't recognize him. His colors, his aura colors, his layers, his countenance had changed so much. And as in, like, I saw darkness, and his eyes didn't even look the same. The eyes had changed. And I'm going to love it when he watches this and he can hear me say to the whole world that I saw that. And then I've got dozens of people, including media people, who see it too. Maybe
Chad, if
had to wake up
you'd like to rebuttal,
still being deceived.
Well, if you'd like to rebuttal, Chad.
But just for the record, my angels also tell me that he still believes he and Lori are going to get out of this deal, and that they work for the light side, and that they have some kind of authority to bring about some things on this planet, and he is absolutely deceived. So it breaks my heart, actually, because I do care for him.
Right. No, I get it. You guys had a close working relationship. I get it. I get it.
Not in love, but I do love him, but not in love. Just want to clarify that. You can love someone, you can
As
love
a friend,
people.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was going to ask. Is Chad part of all of his kids' lives then? You
He
say
was very much part of their lives until a year ago when I saw him. But your kids grow up and leave the house and they start living their own lives. So there's some of that going on. I have heard through my contacts that there is strife in the family for obvious reasons. His kids are very confused, trying to figure out what's going on and who to believe. They're angry at me. I have broken their heart. They feel like I betrayed them. And I hope they will hear me when I say that I'm doing this because I love them and I want them to wake up to truth, and to everybody else on this planet who have been negatively impacted by Chad and Lori's decisions. And if you watch my videos, you'll see I am even waking up to it, because the first thing I said was, on the first media that I did was, the Chad I know would never hurt anybody. He never hurt Tammy, he never hurt his wife or his kids. And I absolutely believed that. Believed
you
with an
still
ED.
believe that?
I don't know if he did or not. And I'll tell you honestly, because the evidence that I now have is stacking up against it. And as I've received evidence from friends, church contacts, media, police, FBI, all kinds of stuff, documents, I have access to hundreds of pages of documents that's been given to me with black and white writing of Chad's own emails to Lori. When you see something black and white, then your eyes are opened
You
and
have
you're
emails
unveiled.
between Chad and Lori?
I have information from emails between Chad and Lori.
Wow.
That have been given to
before
me.
we get to okay, so when do you want to talk about that? Because did that happen in the time frame between when you started seeing things? Like, when did he meet Lori? I guess let's go back.
So
when did he meet
that's
Lori?
unclear. That's unclear. I knew he met Lori. I knew he had met her by October of 2018, but my sources tell me it was at least September of 18, and it could have been before then. He started acting super weird to me like July, August of 18, like really dramatically different. He distanced himself as far as friendship goes. I could see, I have spiritual vision, so I can see people from a distance often, if God will show me. Otherwise, I can't see them, they're veiled. And God would show me that he was texting other women other than Tammy, and talking to other women on the phone. And he didn't hide this from me either. I knew he had a lot of people that were interested in the story and people that would email him. And I saw that, for several years that I knew him. I gave him the benefit of the doubt, like I do everybody. I always look for the good in everybody. And then he started telling me in the summer of 18 that Tammy was having a hard time with her health issues. She was on an antidepressant, and they're going to be livid. The family's going to be livid for me telling this important part of the story. She was on an antidepressant, and she had gotten off her meds, and then a few months later had decided to get back on them. And that's as much as I know, and I know it from kids, and I know it from Chad. I heard it as this is a first source directly from them. And I talked to Tammy on the phone maybe once during that time. And really, my angels just said, she's really having a hard time. She and Chad are having a hard time. Stay out of it. And so I did. And I only saw Chad. I went to Rexburg September, October, November, December. And during that time, I only saw him a couple times. I didn't see him every trip. And he asked me in August of 2018 not to go over to the house because Tammy was having a hard time and that she was jealous. And I asked him, well, why is she jealous? Tammy and I are friends. I've never had any reason for her to be jealous of me. And and God said, he's hiding something from you. And then I discerned that it had to do with his contact with other women, and she was kind of like catching on,
picking up on it.
Yeah. And I don't know if she just lumped me into that or what, I don't know. But
she could have.
There was a lot more going on. And I
or
don't blame
he
him
wanted you to think, but he maybe wanted you to think that you were lumped into that.
He wanted me to think that. Right. Or maybe his intention was to get me lumped into that.
Right.
Because I look at him like he's grooming Lori. There was another woman in Arizona that I believe he groomed, and whether he views it like that or not, because he believed they were married to them in past lives. And I was very open with my husband about the past lives, seeing probations, all the stuff that I worked on with Chad related to my stuff. And that's when my husband started saying, are you more and more, can you trust Chad? Can you trust Chad? And I'd say, not entirely, but I'm still supposed to work with him. And the Lord said to me from 2017 to 2019, February 19, he said, Julie, stay the course. You made premortal covenants and you need to flush the energy. You need to expose the energy, flush the energy. You made covenants, stay the course. And so I continued to do what God asked me to do, which was to work with him as a friend and help he and his family if they wanted energy sessions or whatever. So at that point, I wasn't working with him professionally in any other way. And I got frustrated with him because I would hear from him, he would ignore my texts or calls unless he wanted something from me. And finally in February of 19, I had seen enough in my mind's eye and had been shown in vision enough of what Chad was up to, related to Lori and some other stuff, that I absolutely had a confirmation from the Holy Spirit that I was correct on what I was seeing, because I was only going on my gifts and I didn't want to make a false accusation. So I confronted him in February about it, and I told him he also had patriarchal energy, which is basically male dominant energy that's been passed down, goes into some control and stuff. And
I lost your video.
sorry,
oh, there you are.
I know. And confronted him on that, and confronted him on his communications and things I didn't agree with there. And then I can't remember where else. I've got the copy of the text. I'd have to look and see. And I was talking to my husband about this all along. And my husband would say to me, we'd get in these big arguments because he's like, Chad's deceived and he's deceiving you, related to, certain probations and this light dark stuff, and being able to try to measure, how much light and dark is in there. And I would say to my husband, I'm still supposed to work with him. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with most of what he's saying, but I am supposed to work with him. There's something I'm supposed to learn here. There's something I'm trying to discern here. I can tell Chad is deceived on some of this. I'm being told not to even tell Chad that he's deceived for whatever reason. We have agency. I can't interfere. God just said, keep working with him, be patient, be kind, and then also flush the energy, expose the energy. And I didn't know what that meant. Now I know what it means, at least some
So that was in 2018.
More and more is flushing out. More and more is exposing. That was the fall of, it was 2017, end of 2017 and 2018. And I know of at least one other woman that he was in contact with that Tammy was upset about, and that was texting, and she tried to get a hold of me too. That's what I find interesting is that lady, she also lives in Arizona, that lady and Lori and Melanie and Zulema, like that whole group that's involved with Melanie, the nieces, Brandon stuff, they all tried to contact me in 2018, 19, and mostly in 2018. And the other lady that was in Arizona that he was having an emotional affair with, that's what I call it. I knew they were in contact. She had emailed him initially first, and they were in contact. And I know he was actually angry, very heartbroken and angry over that, because she basically cut him off after her husband found texts between the two of them and threatened Chad that he would expose him publicly if he didn't leave his wife alone. So I had not only big red flags, but I heard that personally from Chad. Chad told me that. That's why I know about it. I don't know it from that other lady. I never let her know that I knew what was going on in the relationship. I hope she hears me to know that the reason I didn't contact her is because God told me to stay out of all of it.
I wish the other lady would come on and talk to me. I would love to talk to her. If you hear from her.
I might after this. I might get a hate mail. But that wouldn't be the first one I got. Of the 15,000 emails I've had in 6 years, at least half of them are hate mail. So I'm good with it.
Oh my God. You take it in stride.
Once you're called, you're the pawn of the devil. It only goes up from there. So
do you think that maybe these other women, I guess you wouldn't know this, but wouldn't it be interesting if they were to be witnesses
right
eventually in the case?
If they could come forward, if I wasn't the only voice. Yeah, it would be really nice.
Yes.
I have had a few people email me saying they went to one of Chad's events and they felt like he was flirting with them.
I'm going to ask you right now, if you get anybody who has anything that they want to talk about with him, could you send them my way if they want to publicly talk about it?
Yeah, and when I do my podcast, I'll try to remember to say that. Or I'm going to put this podcast on my social media, and so anybody that listens to this will hear that. And just say, go ahead and email me at agreatertomorrow2014@gmail.com. If you have anything you want to share about your experience with Chad Daybell, Tammy Daybell, especially any events you might have gone to,
or Lori, if they've met Lori.
Lori.
Gosh.
Now, I've never met Lori. I don't know Lori. I only went strictly on my gifts, on what I saw in her past and what I saw in her future, and what my angels told me, which was stay clear away.
So let's start from there. Let's start from, you start to notice a difference in Chad. You've got these other women that he's talking to. Tammy's getting,
it was gradual. I feel like it started, the only one I knew about was this one woman in Arizona. There could have been others. I knew he was
but he told you that Tammy was getting jealous. Jealous was his word,
he told me that started telling me that in July and August of 2018. So last time I saw Tammy in person was like the summer of 2018.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Did you happen to talk to her after he said she was feeling some type of way?
No, and I was never alone with Tammy, except for a couple times I'd walk outside to go look at their chickens or ducks and talk to her for 5-10 minutes here. But looking back on it, like, I never had an opportunity to just go out to lunch with Tammy or just hang out with Tammy. And I'm wondering if that was a control thing on Chad's part, because he was afraid of what Tammy and I might talk about.
He didn't want, yeah, of course. Yeah.
He had gotten to know me, and he knows I have these gifts. And he also knows that I have this ability to shoot it straight and not do the fake thing. And I don't put up with that.
Well, yeah, you would be one that he'd want to keep away from the wife then, to be one-on-one.
Yes.
Because you're gonna be like, okay, Tammy, you need to come out with this.
You need to know this.
Yeah. Yeah, and you need to hear this. Yeah.
Except that I was told very clearly to stay out of it. Otherwise, I would have called her. I never called Tammy and said, hey, I know about, so-and-so in Arizona, because I was told to stay out of their marriage, stay out of their mess, and do what I had been asked to do by the Lord, which I did do. And I completed that, the first phase of it, as far as meeting in person with him in December. And then the text messages in February. So there were specific directives I got from the light side into how to handle Chad Daybell those last few years. I hope he hears me. He's going to listen to this, and I hope he hears me.
I have to say I admire your courage, because these people seem like they're dangerous. They can be dangerous. I don't know. All these deaths, man, around
my confidence waxed strong in the Lord, because I know who protects me. And I'm not afraid of Lucifer or anybody that works with him. I get attacked very physically regularly. I'm used to it. And the more it happens, the more protection I get. I've got huge light warriors that guard me. So not only do I not care what any man on this planet thinks, I care what God thinks. I don't care what anybody else thinks about me. I care what he thinks, and he's asked me to do a mission, I'm going to do it. And if somebody wants to try to get in the way of that, including Chad and Lori Daybell, then I will expose whatever that is. And whether people intend to deceive or not. And there's a combination going on there with Chad and Lori.
So, all right. So you hadn't talked to Tammy, and let's fast forward. You hear that Tammy is dead. How did you find out that Tammy
I saw
died?
vision before she died. So I was told in the summer of 2015, on that same trip where my husband met Chad and Tammy and their family, we went back to their house after we'd had dinner. And we were in their storage room. He was showing us where he kept his books and some other things. This is in their Springville house. And I actually was in that storage room. It was like a garage, but they didn't use it as garage. And it was just Tammy, Chad, and Jeff and I. And I heard very clearly from one of my angels that Tammy Daybell would pass away within about 5 years, is what I was told. I didn't know how. I had no idea. And I didn't tell a living soul. I told my husband at some point. I don't know when I told him, but not on that trip. I lost you.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I had to turn off my audio for a second. I'm here.
Okay. And so, and I never breathed the word of it. And then, not to chat or anything, and all the time I worked with him. And then about 3 years ago, I think, I don't remember exactly when, it was like 3 years ago, he came to me and he said he had had a vision of Tammy dying. And he asked me if I had been told anything. And I said, yeah, actually, I've known that for a while. This is what they told me. And he said, have you seen anything? And I said, no, not really, not that I can think of. And he described a scene where she was driving his black truck that he usually drove, and there was some snow on the ground, and she slid off the road and hit a pole. And he described how he could see her body leaving her spirit, and how, they came to escort her and everything. Well, when he connected his energy like that with me, I saw the same thing. So I thought I was having a vision, but I have since learned that sometimes with my gifts, sometimes I can see what the other person is thinking. So I have a telepathic ability, and then I can also see sometimes what people have in their thought. And I don't know if that's what it was, or if it was a true vision, if it was just what
You
he
know
had
what,
in his
Julie? I'm
head.
going to keep my video off. I'm going to keep my video off. If you can read my
Okay.
thoughts, you're in trouble. I'm just kidding.
You're freaked out right now. And yes,
I'm like,
sometimes
oh
I can see
God.
people naked, but I try not to. The light side, we block naked people. We don't want to see their junk.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, yeah. So I can scan the energy. I can look at aura colors. I can see the, if you have disease and stuff like that in the body, which is why I could do the energy work. Well, so it was no same, but Chad didn't know my gifts. In fact, he still doesn't know a lot of them. And I think I'm just disclosing some of them to him right now, right along with the rest of the world. So anyway, so I'm still being taught by the spirit on what my gifts are, and they're developing and they're increasing in as my understanding does too. And that's the same for everybody on the planet, right? We all have these gifts, and we awaken to them at different points in our plan, whenever it's time for us to awaken to those, or whenever we start to develop those. And so I came to the
I
planet
believe that.
with a lot of these gifts. Yeah, I mean, it's no different than like if you're a good singer or dancer or pianist, right? You have to practice and you work at it. You might come with that gift naturally, but then you have to work at it. And so
Yeah,
anyway,
and I've
that we
seen
can
it.
do a
I've
whole
seen
other
it in my own
podcast on
daughter.
that.
Not to,
Oh, yeah.
and we
Yeah.
will. I've seen it in my own daughter. My daughter has had like this ability since she was little,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it scared her. But now she's 20 and she's slowly learning to, I guess, access
Yes.
that ability,
Yeah, you have to work
without it
through
being
it.
scary.
I mean, I remember in second grade being at the skating ring and seeing this little girl going around the skating ring, and this guy that he's probably 18 or 20 going around. And I'm standing there and I can see what's going to happen. And I can see that she's going to fall down. He's going to roll over her and smash her hand. And it happened. And I remember in second grade asking God if I made it happen, because it freaked me out and I was scared. I thought I was a bad little girl. And trying to understand, like, what's my brain doing, and why did I just see that, and why did it just happen, and like, what's this mean, and who am I? I mean, I started asking the who am I questions, and what exactly is going on with me, and am I crazy, way back when I was like 3, 4, and 5 years old. My earliest memories, because that's how I've been on this planet. And from the very beginning, if your veil is thin and you can hear demons and angels, well, then those demons are going to tell you something. So the angels, and it really is like the good angel and the demon on your shoulder, they all show in like the cartoons and stuff. You have opposition. So you have the light side telling you something, and then you'll have the dark side come in right after that. Or the dark side will tell something and the light side will correct it. But it's often
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, but it's just spirit realm. It's just matter that's around us. We just can't see it, or most of us can't see it or feel it, but some of us are more sensitive. So those 50% that like me, that email me, that's one of the other things that has given me courage to be more bold about my gifts, is because I've got thousands of people with these gifts that have emailed me and said, no one's ever understood me in my whole life. And now there's somebody that's, being brave and not afraid to say publicly, I can hear my grandma talking to me. She died 5 years ago, or I saw a demon last night and it freaked me out. So it's very real. It's very real. Most people have 5 or 6 senses, and I just deal in a multidimensional situation.
So when you saw the things about Tammy's death, your spirits or your angels told you back off of this.
Yeah, so I had pretty clear vision. 3 weeks before Tammy died, I talked to Chad. It was the first time I had talked to him since March of 19. And it was a business call. I was upset with him because of royalties and other things, and he had been ignoring my texts and emails. And so
this is your publisher is ignoring you.
Yes. I had quit publishing with him at my initiation in March of 19. And again, my angels told me quit publishing. And I thought I was doing it for his protection. I was told I was doing it for my protection. And I knew when I say protection, because I got excommunicated from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on April 9th. So a year ago yesterday was my anniversary. And in anticipation of that, because I had seen that in vision for several years that was going to happen, in trying to protect Chad and being obedient to what my angels were saying, I called him up and I said, hey, I'm going to get excommunicated. I've told you about this before. It's going to happen. And so we need to stop publishing. And he agreed. He and Tammy had talked about it, and they wanted to quit publishing too. And and I kept hearing over and over it, Julie, it's for your protection. It's for your protection. And I saw in vision that I was supposed to self-publish at some time, but I didn't know when, or go with another publisher. I didn't have clarity on how. I just knew I had other books that were going to get out, and Chad wasn't going to be the publisher. And that I was going to redo.
But you had to stop with him.
And I was going to redo Tragedy to Destiny with a new cover. I saw that before we ever even did the first Tragedy to Destiny book. They showed me both covers, but I never told Chad.
So what were you excommunicated? What was the reason?
I was falsely accused of apostasy, priestcraft, defaming the good name of the church, and you know what? There was one other thing I can't even remember right now, but I stand by it. I was falsely accused, but I know it's part of my plan and for a higher purpose that I've been shown that will come forward. And some people understand that now. Some people understand it in a few years. Some people, it might take them until we get into the millennium, and maybe other people will die during the tribulations, and they'll be told why this was part of the plan. But I'm at peace with it. I was angry. I did a podcast called Unrighteous Dominion last year. If somebody wants to find it on Julie Rowe Show, and I did that, and it cleared a lot of energy. And I was angry at the stake president and other church leaders that did it because of how they did it, and they were absolutely wrong. And I make no excuse for them, and they will be held accountable for that. But in a way, I want to thank them because they have freed me up to do the rest of my mission that I knew was coming. So it's been really hard on my family, but we're stronger now as a result of it. So,
what did Chad think of that? What did he
was trying to distance himself because he didn't want to get excommunicated. He was trying to keep his reputation intact. And my reputation was trashed the first year my book came out.
So now it's kind of like, I better distance myself from Julie because she's going to make me look bad.
Yeah, but he was always trying to have his cake and eat it too, because even 3-4 years ago, I had it get back to me that he was talking behind my back and saying little snide comments about me being crazy or other things. So he wanted to make money off my books and publish the books, and I believe he also knew he had seen me in vision, so he knew he was supposed to do the books, and he had invested interest in it financially. I was his top selling author by a long shot, made more money from him for any other. In fact, he wouldn't have been able to buy that house in Idaho if it hadn't been for making so much money on my books, and helped him a lot with his finances. They had almost lost their business in 2008 because when was it? The market crash. I'm trying to remember now what he told me, but Deseret Book bought out all the small time LDS. Deseret Book's owned by the church, the Mormon church. And when all the financial stuff happened, most of the small time private LDS catered book companies, publishing companies went out of business. And Chad's company and Cedar Fort were the only two other than Deseret Book or church-owned bookstores that were left to sell anything, LDS related. And that also, I'm going to say this and offend the Mormon church, but Deseret Book is corrupt. And it's terrible what they've done. So he had a long history, a lot of anger and issues and hurt feelings about Deseret Book and what they've done. But then my books were put in Siegel Book, which is owned by Deseret Book. Deseret Book itself, where he had worked and had a falling out with, would not accept my books, but Siegel did. He had a good relationship with Siegel Books. In fact, they put me in.
They were the ones that
ads.
published. They published his podcast, correct? The People's.
No, that's Preparing a People. Siegel Book is a bookstore owned by. It's a book chain owned by. It's all over the West area. Like I know it's in Arizona, Utah, and Idaho. I don't know if it's in other states. It's like a sub company of Deseret Book. It was an individual, privately owned company, and then when they were starting to go out of business, Deseret Book bought them. And so people in the LDS Church, they kind of get this thing like if it's bought by if it's in the Deseret Bookstore, then it must be okay to read. It must be like a approved from the top down. And but there's so many politics involved, and they've got plenty of dark books in their bookstore. We've been infiltrated at every level. So people were confused because my books were quote unquote approved by Siegel Book and was their top seller for a long time. They gave me a half-page ad, which they've never done with anybody other than a book that was actually written by a prophet or apostle. But people don't know that.
They do
and
now.
Then there was, yes. And then there was, the other thing that people don't know is that there was a CES, a CES thing that went out from church headquarters saying that my first book was considered spurious and that you should not teach it in your classes. Well, first of all, teaching institute or seminary, you shouldn't teach anything other than what the church gives you in a manual. That's very clear in their principles and guidelines for the church handbook. But the other thing is that what they don't know is that someone at church headquarters who was working for the dark side actually doctored those documents, and they put fake letterhead on it and sent it out. But the church, instead of getting my back and admitting that they had somebody infiltrated at headquarters, turned their back on me instead. And this is the first time I'm talking publicly about that, and I hope they spread it all over the internet.
I love her outspokenness. I know, and someone just said in chat, the content is good when this chat is quiet. Because the chat is...
They're all like, is she for real? Is she crazy?
No, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You can't.
I know, right?
You can't.
It'd make a good movie, but I got no interest.
That's why I'm glad that we did a live stream, because I wanted you to be able to be candid, 100% candid and not scripted at all. And I want everybody to see, the realness.
Well, thank you. And also because my Eyes Open and Julie Rocha are not scripted either, but we do pre-record that. And so people know, well, you say they're not scripted, but how do we know they're not?
You can still edit,
evidence. Yeah, this is evidence. Like, guys, it's not
editing.
Like,
there's no editing involved here.
I mean, I got plenty of people that my family's going to be like, oh my gosh, what did she say? See, I like this. It's like the Lord knows I'm the loose cannon for them, but he knows that I can control what I need to control and say it when I need to say it. However, the dark side knows exactly what a loose cannon I can be. And I think it terrifies them, right? Because if you have nothing to hide, all the fear energy and the power they have over you, gone. And that's the other thing excommunication did for me, was as soon as I didn't have that fear of being excommunicated, I was set free. And I lost the fear of being excommunicated well before I got X'd. So by the time I got X'd, I was very prepared. So
you were
as well as
there.
You can be, the betrayal energy's out of this world. Like, it was insane.
What did your family think when that happened to you?
Well, my extended family doesn't talk to me about it. They just talk behind my back and to my husband. And then every now and then they'll bring it up, but we haven't really had a conversation. And same with my family. I've talked to a couple of my sisters. One brief, very, very rough text conversation with my dad. My mom, she's good at loving unconditionally. So it's been really hard. I've ruined the reputation of the family name, both my maiden name and the Rowe name. I've just ruined it. Right. And it's okay. It's part of my mission. I'm good with it. And the repercussions.
And your husband's supportive of you, and that's
absolutely.
He sat in
that council, and he was my knight in shining armor. He came to my defense, and he actually stood up when he was getting yelled at too, because I got yelled at almost off and on for about 2 hours. And there were 17 men in that room, including my husband. And my husband's the only one that came to my defense or in any way spoke up with any kind of reasoning or truth or another side or possibility, even though you're supposed to have, half and half, one that represents you and one that represents the church. And that absolutely wasn't a council. It was an interrogation, and it was an ambush. It was so bad, so bad. So, and I got yelled at, and falsely accused on a lot of charges. Although those men to this day still think they did the right thing, and that's okay. I'll see them at the judgment bar.
Do you have any regrets? Do you have any regrets?
I have no regrets. No.
That's all that matters.
Doesn't mean I think I'm a perfect person. I repent of those every day, multiple times a day. I've made mistakes, but I did not make the mistakes they accuse me of.
You've learned. It's and that's the thing. It's a difference when you have regrets versus learning. So if you've gone through something, you've learned from it, there's no regrets.
Right.
It's an experience.
I have a clear conscience.
Forward.
Right. I have a clear, clean conscience. The other thing, like this came up today in a conversation I had with somebody about some project working on the Wasatch Wake Up. I did a Brian Hyde radio interview in May of 2016. And I told everybody that Wasatch Wake Up is imminent. I never gave a date, but everybody else on the internet assigned a date, and the rumor ran around that I had given the date, and it's still going around that I've given a date. I have never given a date. I had a couple of my closest circle that I thought, I surmised maybe it could be at, certain time, but I have never given a date and publicly, but I'm still falsely accused of that. And the word imminent was given to me for a reason. If you look in the scriptures about the word imminent, do some research on that and see what the Lord says about imminent. Now they're telling me, so that at first they said the earthquake soon, then they said imminent. This is what I'm supposed to say publicly. It's soon, then very soon, then imminent. No, it was soon, then very soon, then imminent, then right around the corner, then at the doorsteps. And then I was told not to talk about it basically for almost a year and a half. And then this year they started saying, when I'd ask, when is it? And they'd say very soon. And I'd say, how soon? And they'd say very, very soon. And it wasn't until the last few months, right when I saw more of this coronavirus is going to take off like it was. And when I was told very clearly that the 5.7 in Salt Lake was going to happen with a trumpet, I had seen that in vision several years ago. So once it was right before that, I heard them say, okay, you can start talking publicly about the Wasatch Wake Up again. So, man, we're all over. I'm all over the place.
I know. I know. I'm like, we'll do one. Well, no, it's good. I'm
getting my own energy session here.
Well, I know we talked about doing a series, and we're going to cover a lot of different topics. Today, we want to just kind of lay the groundwork. Like, how did you meet Dad? What happened? One question I do have is he defended you when you were excommunicated, did he not? Did he write a blog defending you?
He didn't.
He didn't.
He actually did the opposite. He started talking trash on me, and he wouldn't comment. And on a vow, he doesn't know I know this, but I have contacts, and they send me stuff. Somebody would make a comment about it, and every now and then he'd like it. It's like his way of saying, I agree with you. So to my knowledge, he did not defend it. He did the opposite. Because
someone just made a comment.
The betrayal I had was long ago. I had betrayal from him, it was clear-cut betrayal in December, unspeakable, more clear for me in January. By February, I knew he had betrayed me and would betray me worse. And then a few months ago, the reason I started speaking out more was because that was my cue that I got from Lightside that I was waiting for, to get from him publicly in black and white writing that he was denouncing me and my mission and and certain things that he knew about me. And the very first time Chad communicated to the public was through Christopher on a vow. And he had Christopher type out notes saying, I think the issue here, and this is in regards to Chad's weird religious beliefs that were just starting to be exposed, which were not mine or attributed to me, but he was trying to attribute them to me to get the picture off of him. And the verbiage was basically, I think the issue here is that people are confusing me with Julie Rowe's religious beliefs, which I have studied but since rejected. And that is an outright lie. And as we get into more of these podcasts that I hope to do with you, I would love to spell it out and say, let me tell you why it's a lie. Let me tell you where we delineated. Let me tell you where we disagreed. Let me tell you where we still disagree. Let me tell you what the true doctrine is and why some of it feels like, what is this? And others goes, what the hell? I just offended all the Christian community on Good Friday.
Fine.
And
by the way, you look lovely in purple, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. It's for Good Friday. Thank you.
I want to clear some confusion up in chat here. We decided before we did this podcast that we were going to do a series. So I know you guys have a lot of questions about visions of the kids and things like that. And we're definitely going to get to that. So be patient. Yeah. It's coming.
This is very, very layered. This is like.
It is. It is.
Like
and
Go
ahead.
If you had a 7-layer dip, we haven't even laid the refried beans down.
Yeah, we haven't even laid down the beans. And I think it's important that everybody understand that this is not cut and dry. All of this is interesting. All of this matters because this shows us a lot of the beliefs that a lot of us aren't familiar with. I'm not familiar with it,
and this is part of the higher plan. They keep telling me with the opposition we get because of Chad and Lori and the choices they've made. There are millions of people being exposed to portions of truths that have been lost that need to be revealed and brought back to the earth to get people ready for the Lord's second coming. There are bits and pieces of truth that have come out. It's just that it's a huge distortion on truth, which is exactly Lucifer's MO. It's what he does. So we get to correct it, and that's exciting for me. Yeah.
And I'm happy to give you a platform to that because I want to look at all angles and aspects of this case. Yeah. That's why I say I will talk. If there's anybody that wants to come on and talk, I'm willing to give them a platform. I'm not here to take sides. I'm here to give a platform for better understanding as a whole to this case.
Right.
I don't know why there's people in chat that are upset about that because there's backstories to every case that we follow.
Yes.
Every single true crime case, there's always a backstory.
Yes.
And if you just want to read what the media puts out, by all means, go to CNN.com or go to whatever news source and read the article. But this, you're not going to get there. And that's what I find interesting.
I've given 40 minutes to an hour to every single one of these news agencies, if not 2 and 3 and 4 hours, and you see what they've chosen to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wanted you to have an hour.
They all know a lot of this, and they're not telling the whole story, but they're doing their job the way the media is set up to do it.
Sure.
When you have a podcast, you can do it differently.
And that's what's so great about having this platform, because I don't have any rules to follow. I don't have a producer telling me, no, you can't talk about that. I want to hear it all. And you know what? If people think that this sounds crazy, then don't listen. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but to come here and say, well, why are you talking about this?
Well, people are freaked out about coronavirus. Wait until next year or the year after that.
Oh God.
Wait till we're like 3 years in and we got some of the worst plagues ever. And people are like, crap, maybe she wasn't as crazy as I thought. Maybe I should have listened. Or when we have foreign troops on our soil, or when Salt Lake is flooded from the Great Salt Lake from a big 9-point earthquake or 9.5. And when foreign troops have taken over all of I-15. When Chinese have come into the West Coast, or the Russians into the East Coast, into the Gulf of Mexico. What are they going to say then? What happens when... We've seen what happens on toilet paper run, let alone food. What happens when the food rots at the docks? It doesn't even get off the dock. What happens when they want to chip you? They're already talking about it. Get a vaccine for coronavirus. Guys, it's a scam. They have mutated genes. There's more than one virus that's causing this coronavirus. It is a scam. There really are people dying. The numbers are false with what they're doing. It's a bigger plan with the puppet masters and the cabal. And it is some crazy stuff. But some of those conspiracists are actually telling you some of the truth. And some of the craziest stories you think couldn't be possible are the truth. I don't come at it from listening to any of their stuff or from researching any of it. I come at it from a spiritual view, which makes people think it's even crazier. but my source is authentic, and I'm not going to deny it, whether people think I'm crazy or not. They can go, there's now enough research on the internet to know some of this stuff. When I had my near-death experience almost 16 years ago, none of this, like hardly any of this stuff was out there. And like foreign troops, China and Russia, they didn't even have it out there that China and Russia were working together, or that they had any really bad strifes with America. Now you see the dominoes lighting up, and we're going to have war in the Pacific. We're going to have a 5-month war, and then we're going to have a 13-month war on American soil, and then we're going to have a 3.5-year war in Armageddon in Jerusalem. And I'm going to see it in my lifetime.
Well, Julie, stop cheering me up over here.
Well, the good news is, I know, and this is where they're like, "Oh, she's a doomsdayer," and I'm like, if you have faith, you're prepared.
Are you? Are you a doomsdayer?
Absolutely not. You know what? You know what I'm living for? I'm living for the day that we can get the wickedness off the planet, because it's going to happen. The wicked people want to depopulate. That is not the solution. The solution is to raise the energy vibration of everybody on the planet so that they can ascend to be with God and go home. Whether they're on this planet or another planet or in spirit realm, the goal is to gather people back home, to gather the human family home. That is what I get excited for. That's why my book is called A Greater Tomorrow, because I look through that. Even in the tribulations, we can have good days. We can have peace. I am totally prepared for what's going on with coronavirus, and I have no fear of it. And I know how to energetically clear it out. People can believe that or not, but the power of the mind is absolutely phenomenal. And you can energetically clear coronavirus. If somebody is wondering about this, they haven't looked, go see my Eyes Open channel on YouTube and watch the coronavirus free energy session. And you see what your energy does, and if you feel any different. It might freak you out because it's real, but
well, I'm a firm believer, Julie, and that if you envision what you want, that yes, it will happen. But you have to be able to focus on what you want and picture your life the way you want it.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of energy. And that's one thing my daughter is working on right now. And I find it fascinating because we think so negatively.
Yes.
We think so negatively. You know, we're so quick to say, oh, I'm going to die from this coronavirus. I'm doomed. You know, it's going to hit everybody. Mm-hmm. Instead of thinking at it and envisioning what you really want to happen. It's a really interesting concept. But before we close this up, I want to ask you one question about Lori and Chad and their beliefs. And that is their belief that the world was going to end in July. What do you know about that as far as what that means or where that came from?
Chad never told me that. I never heard Chad talk about the world ending. His belief the whole time I knew him, now maybe this has changed, his belief the whole time I knew him, that he at least said to me, was that he believes we're going to have the 7 years of tribulation and transitions. And then we're going to go into a transition period before Christ comes. That's what he told me he believed. I don't know if there was some kind of email between them that crap hits the fan in 2021. What Chad means by that, or 2020, could be plagues and stuff like that. He's off on his timeline, but there are things that are coming, and we see that coming, and there's going to be bigger stuff coming in 2021. That's why the government has the UN's behind this Agenda 21. There's a lot going on behind the scenes in governments around the world too. So he believes in the tribulations, and so does Lori. That's what Chad told me. That's anybody that went to the Preparing a People conferences and Lori met him there. That's what those followers believe. They believe that we are preparing for the second coming of Christ, and that part of that is the 7 years of tribulation. And any good Christian who reads their Bible knows that that's a true doctrine.
Come on, you know Christians don't read the Bible.
Mormons, Christians, they don't read their. I do.
Actually, I was raised Catholic. I can only vouch for the Catholics.
Well, maybe if people haven't read it for a while, they should go look at what Isaiah said and the book of Joel and Revelations. I'd start there. Although Isaiah is encoded and it's very deep, and if you don't have the Spirit with you, it's really hard to understand. So maybe they should just go skip on over to what John the Beloved wrote, John the Revelator in Revelations. And I will say this, that Revelations 12, the sign of Revelations 12 was in 2017 with the solar eclipse. And there's all kinds of stuff tied to the Revelation.
So does all of this fall into the story that the kids turned into zombies?
It's Chad and Lori's distorted views, and I would love to clear up some of that.
Okay, do you want to do that now or do you want to save that for next time? Because I'd
Well,
like to do that.
my phone's at like 8%, so we could say as much as we can. And then my phone would go dead.
Is it going to be more than
Well,
8%
we
worth?
don't
Because
want to.
I don't want
I
to
would
rush you.
joke and say we should leave a cliffhanger, but then for those people that are just tired of hearing me talk, they might not ever go to the next video.
Well,
So let's just get it out there.
you know what? That's fine. If they don't want to hear you talk, then they don't have to listen. But I, for one, am interested in what you have to say, and it's my channel, and that's all that matters.
Oh, good. All
So
right. So we'll go into greater detail on it on another podcast, but
on the
basically,
zombie. But that's a true belief of the doomsdayers then?
No.
Like that's
No.
This is just them?
That's Chad.
This is just Chad and Lori. Okay.
In his novels, which are fiction based on his visions that he's had about his family, he kind of jokingly kind of takes lightheartedly that they looked like zombies. And when I would talk to him about it, he only used that term with me that I remember maybe once or twice because he knows I'm not okay with it and I don't agree that way. I think that's why he didn't. And he was insecure around me about saying something like that. And I refuted it when he said it. What I understand using my logic as well as what I'm hearing from the other side is that he thinks that a zombie is someone who is possessed by a dark spirit, either, and I don't know if he means like entirely possessed or partially possessed, but that
would it be a reason to kill them?
It's never a reason to kill anyone. We never have
To
permission.
them.
We never have permission from light side to kill anybody. Now, he might have justified it with some warped perspectives from reading things in the scriptures and getting dark messengers to tell him that in some cases it's okay to kill for the betterment of the world or something weird like that, right? We can go and delineate into that in more detail based on some of the manuscripts I've been given from those emails and documents they have also between Melanie and Ian and what Ian reported to the police. And so that could be a whole podcast on itself. So I would like to be able to compare and contrast with what is recorded to be believed by Chad and Lori and what is true to get rid of the fear people have, because you see all these zombie shows they've been doing for a while, and the dark side does like put things in our face, right? They're telling us all the time what their next step is in these movies. So there will be people that look kind of zombie-like and they will have possessions, but it is never okay to kill anyone. And he talks about, a dark spirit being able to force somebody's spirit out of their body and take over their body. That is not true. You can't force anyone. You can willingly give up your body partially, but you're still always attached to that body until you die. And there is no such thing as what Chad was saying, as far as somebody gets stuck in this limbo state because somebody's taken over a body. That is fear mongering by the dark side. And they've convinced Chad and Lori that it's a true doctrine, and it's absolutely false. And it's to create more fear on this planet that, people are going to get killed, or two, somebody's going to think they're dark and possessed or whatever. It's a load of crap.
Okay. So on the next podcast, I'm going to make a note of this. I do have a bunch of questions that people asked. Okay. And I did copy them all down, you guys. I was copying and pasting. That's why I was all over. So I have all of those questions. I know your phone's about to die. So next podcast, let's start with those questions. Okay. And kind of, it'll wrap up this segment. And then I do want to ask about how you found out about Lori Vallow, that Lori Vallow existed. But I'm going to hold that there. And I want to start there next time. But Julie, thank you so much for your openness, your candidness. You look beautiful today. I want to thank you for coming on, and I know you take a lot of flack for your outspokenness, but I want you to know that I appreciate it, and a lot of people that are watching appreciate it as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. I just want to expose darkness and reveal truth wherever it may be. And I'm human. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm not the most well-spoken, but you will always get the truth from me.
I think you're very well-spoken. Thank you. So great job, and thank you for joining me again. And enjoy your weekend. And hopefully we can do this next one very soon, sooner than later. We'll get together and check out your calendar. Yeah, text me. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Julie Rowe. Happy Easter to you as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I don't know how to hang up.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. That was awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
That'll
Bye-bye.
be good, right? Are you still
Yes,
on?
perfect.
Okay.
I
All
am
right.
still
Thank
on.
you.
Okay. Bye,
Thanks.
Julie.
All right. Bye. I like
She's so funny. You know what, you guys? I think that you guys, some of you are being very, very hard on her. And I want you guys to have respect. I always ask whether you agree or not, dude, just respect whoever's on my panel. That's all I ask. If you have questions, I definitely will ask. I've noted them all down. And yes, I think the word possess should have been used by Chad other than zombie, but yeah, I mean, this is a backstory. Some of you were saying this is not part of the backstory. It certainly is. This is your your magnifying glass into their beliefs, into their history, into their church, into the friendship she had with Chad Daybell. Absolutely, I'm not paying her. Are you kidding me? I can't afford to pay my guests. All right. On that note, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the donations. All month of April, all the donations that I get through Super Chat and PayPal are going towards some families. I have a Facebook fundraiser going on right now for a J for J family, a husband, sole provider of a family with children, was injured, and they're going to need some help. They're going to need some help. So if you are on my podcast group on Facebook, that fundraiser is posted there. If you're not a member of the podcast group, please consider joining, and any amount is greatly appreciated. So thank you, you guys, and I will see you soon. And everybody take care. Stay safe and be home. Stay home if you can. Thank you, Ryan, for that little advice. I don't know you, so I don't know why I should, let you determine what I do at my channel. But thank you for that advice. Greatly appreciated. I'll take it into consideration. Thank you, Billy Boy Blue. Thank you so much. That goes towards people in need, which we know a lot of people that are in need right now. All right, guys. Fact is stranger sometimes than fiction. Keep that in mind. All right. Take care and love you guys. Have a safe, fun weekend, whatever you're doing. And I'll talk to you soon.